I have a list for you, Laura. Worked on it today.
Am I in trouble again? Nah,
You told me to make a list.
I did. I didn't know you actually listened to me.
I do.
I thought you understood that I'm just a general, I'll just run my mouth if you give me the opportunity.
An instigator?
I learned it from you.
No, no.
Yes.
Now I just have to decide how to divvy it up.
So I see that Sal's here. And Sal, I just want to say that I just read that response that you wrote on the forum about mentor or be mentored. And I love that. And I wish that you would consider sharing some more about that process or those steps that you kind of put out there.
Well, I'm just kind of, it was just something that I read your post, so it's just something I've done all my life as far as, I grew up in the military, so I learned it there. And it's just something that I've done. And then that basically seeing talent when you're talking to young people and you can see their talent and you just kind of go over to them and say, hey, let me guide you. And that's kind of what I am. This young man that I've been mentoring for a year and a half now, he's still in high school, and you should watch this kid work. I mean, he is something else. We don't let him teach, but we let him talk through the demo. We let him do the demo talk as to what the student needs to learn. And every time, students seem to get it. So we're working with him, and just hopefully that, because his goal is to become a coach later on in life. So maybe we're working with him to guide him there.
That's awesome. Get them young. I had a student that was real young in class. I think she was 16 or 17 towards the end of last season, and I put the bug in her ear too. We don't do range aids here, so I kind of just have to cross my fingers and hope that what we talked about sticks and that she comes back to us someday. But would you consider, for people that haven't seen that poster, that don't know what we're talking about, could you say what those steps are, what that mentoring process was that you gave the steps for?
See, now you made.
Yeah, excuse me. I'm trying to get this thing because I'm talking on my phone. It's kind of short notice for me. I would like to, but I'm not going to be able to stay all the entire time tonight because I have an appointment later tonight that I have to go to. So I was just going to sit in and listen tonight. If next week, if you don't mind, I'll take a rain check till then.
I'm going to look forward to that. Thank you.
So how far have you gotten on behave, Laura?
I think I made it to chapter 11, but I was listening to an audiobook and it expired, and now I had to get back on the list for it. So I'm not going to be able to finish it for probably a week or so.
Oh,
I know, I'm sorry. It's a lot, man.
I know.
It's a lot.
It is. What's worse is if you're listening to an audiobook and you want to take note of something.
or go back and listen to something again. In fact, just came in from walking the dogs, and while I was doing that, I was thinking that I need to go back and listen to part of it again. It's interesting because, you know, my background is in healthcare, and so science, and some of that I knew, you know, or some of it I knew a little bit about. So I don't know how you're making it through that, other than you're interested in that stuff, but it's very, very a lot.
It is very a lot. So I'll let everybody listen in on my thoughts here for what it's worth. I feel like I'm sort of weak in motor skill development. I don't know enough about it. I know quite a lot, or at least I'm very familiar with how the brain works, but I wasn't tying together how the brain works in motor skill development. And so I spent about 2.5, 3 hours this afternoon in Behave, bouncing back and forth from chapter to chapter to kind of tie some of that stuff together. And some real epiphanies are starting to happen. And so beyond that, going through the Rider Coach today, doing an assignment that Lara gave me, tying all three together is really got me jazzed up a little bit tonight. So much that my wife got the earful during dinner, me explaining what I had to walk through, because she helps me mentally sort some of this stuff out. So to narrow it down to one word, automaticity is a son of a bitch. That's what it comes down to. And as I write some stuff up on this, I can't wait to share it, because it was helpful to me to understand some things. Who's teaching out there? Mark? We see you tonight. I'm taken aback.
A little too cold to be teaching in the St. Louis area right now, plus with snow.
Yeah, I'm at home this afternoon or this evening, so I have a camera here.
Awesome. So I haven't responded to your email yet, but I'm thinking, you know, the third week of any month you want to. How's that?
That makes sense.
I think it's time to dive back into that. My mind has been tripping down that road, waiting for us to re-engage. So I think everybody would gain from it.
Well, and I'll look back at, because it's a dynamic system, so I'll be looking back at it and considering all that I've learned between then and now.
It's hard to believe it's been 2 years. So that everybody understands, a couple years ago, we got a small work group together. I think Rita was part of it, and we tried to pull Jason into it. He didn't help much, but he did ground us. Who else was there? Oh, Sarah.
Sarah, Dan Pedersen.
Dan Pedersen, yeah. And we were talking about characteristics and abilities, and it ties in a lot with Rider Coach levels. And I think that's what got me started up on it again.
It's sort of a different viewpoint of the levels, or considering that the levels aren't actually level.
True. You want to talk a little bit about it?
I really like Mark's rubber band explanation, I guess I could say, that you presented at IRETS a few years ago. That's, to me, makes the most sense.
The idea was that levels, that there aren't discrete levels because everybody develops differently. And now I can't remember the name of the book, but after going through a book that Dan Pedersen had brought up that deals with education and evaluating competencies in basically elementary and secondary education, I came up with parallels in rider education and came up with sort of a 5-point system. So it formed sort of a pentagon. And the idea was that it formed a map that we are all in somewhere, and that where you are on the map depends on your focus and your talents, and that it's constantly changing. And then the rubber band, or I think it was a bungee cord at the time, being more motorcycle related, but the idea of the elastic cord was that it was something that it was sort of it represented our boundaries, our envelope that we were always trying to push outwards. But it had, the issue was that the harder you pushed in one spot, you could potentially lose ground in another area. So it was always a challenge to try to keep pushing things outward towards some sort of theoretical maximum, which actually wouldn't exist, but trying to continually push your boundaries outward. And that it also sort of showed me that the idea that you could reach a level and stay there was impossible, because it required constant effort to keep your boundaries expanded. If you didn't, everything would contract to the center.
And to help out with the discussion, let's see if we can do that. Anybody see it?
Well, that looks familiar.
How do you like that? And I didn't even plan this.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was just thinking, boy, I wonder, I know it's on my computer somewhere, but that was the idea. I think, didn't I have concentric? There, okay, there it is. Got the different, where you are. So you can sort of see, if we overlaid everything, the idea of that it constantly requires effort to keep pushing outwards. And the harder you push, the harder it pulls back.
So I think that was kind of the directional approach that you were talking about.
Yeah, that
Whoops.
summed it up.
That's the levels from before we become a rider coach or not yet competent, all the way through mastering something. And then I think that was the rubber bands that are always in play going out. And as you pull one, more than likely you're going to pull the opposite direction on another. It's hard to keep everything in place. We continually try to improve it all, and it's never ending.
Yes, and the sort of the relative ratios or the gaps between levels was very important, and that it's not even stepping. I have some background in different sorts of competition, and one of the things that as you gain awareness, so as you get to maybe the competent level in something, you start to be aware that the distance to the next step is exponentially greater than the one you last made. And it just keeps getting farther and farther. So sort of the more competent you get, the more distant, the greater the amount of distance you have to cover to achieve the next level of competency or familiarity or knowledge or however you want to term where you're going.
What was the saying? Rita always remembers this about mastery.
Oh, that was in the book. It was that, I don't remember what she called the top level.
Charlotte Danielson.
Danielson. I don't remember what she called the top level, but she said it was someplace that was nice to visit, but you couldn't expect to live there.
Is that it? There we go.
That's it.
So just a little preview, I guess, for the future.
Right. That's the first paragraph is something pulled directly from her book, and just the words in brackets are substituted from our field into her field, replacing teacher with rider, coach, etc.
So I think that would probably make a really great tribe talk in the future if we can make it all mesh.
Yeah, the book is very good reading, but it's extremely dense with information. And if I remember right, it's really just the first half of the book that applies to us, because the second part actually delves specifically into primary and secondary education, rather than riding a motorcycle.
Mel, what do you think about that?
I am just trying to keep up with the conversation so far, sir.
Do you call Robin sir?
It's like an insult.
Probably trying to make him feel
It
good, I
always
guess.
That's
Nope,
the
nope.
sarcastic sir, not the respectful sir, right?
Nothing Mel has ever said to me has ever made me feel good.
It's a few steps past disrespectful.
Makes you feel old, sir.
Right. You know how when a cop pulls you over and you call him sir?
No, I don't.
I was going to say that.
Neither do I. I don't get pulled over.
It's been a while,
I just smile.
right?
Last time I got pulled over, I got nice Ducati.
Last
You
time I
didn't feel
got
like
pulled over,
correcting him, did you? It's
last
a
time I got
Honda.
pulled over, the cop was older than me, so
These are not the droids you're looking for.
yeah, that doesn't work anymore.
You working on the 350s?
I am.
Okay. And how are we doing?
There's Lucy. There's Janet.
I think whichever one you choose as the parts bike, we should skeleton that one down after the fact and get it prepped as a track only machine.
Well, here's the problem that I'm having now, Robin, is that, I bought Lucy, and then Janet went up for sale, and she's got a lot of great parts on her, so I bought her as a parts bike.
What about
But
the bike?
the problem is I named her, so she can't be a parts bike anymore. So now I need another parts bike to fix these two up. Because I can't. I started taking parts off of Janet, and there's stuff like even like the coils are factory coils. It's like a virgin. It's never been touched. I'm having a hard time taking parts off of it.
Well, we bring up that bike on the podcast, that whole thing with the engine being available. The bike that the new engine comes from that's a cool little machine. You can't get it
right, but I was wrong. The new one is a single cylinder. It's a completely different machine. But if they come to the States for sale, I'm buying one.
Damn Skippy.
Because with my weight, I think I need 3 350s to carry me around.
Just wear them like skates.
Right. All three of them. Have we met?
Murray is shaking his head. You okay?
Am I getting kicked off the group already?
Oh, yeah,
No.
I'm good. I hear 350, and the way that I relate to 350 is my favorite race bike is a 1968 Ducati 350 single GT bike. And
You talking about the two-stroke?
no, it's not a two-stroke. It's a it's pretty cool little bike. It has some provenance. It was the last bike to win anything major in the U.S. before the two-strokes came in, and was I'm actually the guy that helps me develop it is the son of the original builder, who's fairly famous. But anyway, I droll on. Racing.
Have you watched the movie Faster? Has anybody seen this movie Faster?
Mhm.
And the sequel, Faster and Faster. Nice.
Yeah.
I just watched that for the first time, and now it's like the only thing all I want to do is ride a two-stroke now. It's like stuck in my head. I want to get a 500cc 1970s two-stroke sport bike and just like.
Well, they're great until they seize up, and then you turn into an astronaut for about 3 seconds, and it gets painful. So I raced two-strokes back when I was a kid, and I don't do it anymore. It's hard enough to race a 4-stroke and burn pistons, but that's the way it goes.
Nice. Wait, so then, Linda, have you seen Faster and Faster? Never mind.
So Mel, I have to ask, what 350 are you talking about?
I bought a 73 CB 350, the little 2-cylinder. They were made from 68 to 73.
Oh yeah.
And the 73 is when they put the disc on the front fork. So I just had a hair up my ass and a couple $100 in my pocket, and I saw one go for sale, so I bought it to fix it up. And then I saw another one, so I bought that one, and I've brought the one back to life. I can get it to run now. It doesn't idle real well, but you know, I'm on a good path to get it all put back together and on the road by hopefully April.
Cool. Yeah, no, I bump elbows with those guys in the racetrack. They are some pretty, in that class, they're pretty stout.
It's a fun little ride, and there's a big following. So one of the big reasons that one of my major factors in deciding to do this was that there are just a bazillion parts available. I mean, I bought the entire gasket kit came in this envelope here. I'm redoing my desk, so this is the entire gasket kit, all came in this envelope. Sure. And it was $43.
Yeah, if you need any help with that or any tuning, there's a great shop in Albuquerque called the Kings of Speed, and the owner there was a multiple ARMA champion racing those bikes.
Okay, good to know. I may look into that, because this one that I've got running, it'll just sit there idling, and then it idles faster and faster and faster. So I got to.
You need to look up Bob Burns, man.
What's that?
You need to look up Bob Burns, who runs Chivan Moto. He used to run Chivan. I think.
Yeah, Bob is also good for sure.
Bob Burns he's got it. He's so he's right there by you as well. So
right. The problem is, if I go to him and he's very helpful, then forever it will be Robin that sent me there. So if someone else could recommend Bob Burns, I'd really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, no, I can definitely do that. I can recommend Bob. He's a good guy.
You recommend Bob Burns? All right, I'll look him up. Thanks.
Yeah. You can find him on the ARMA Vintage racing site on Facebook.
Right. Jackass. So, yeah. I've stolen so many one-liners from Bob Burns. He's the guy I got the Aprilia gag for. Aprilia, because it was like the early 2000s when they were just hitting the market. He was the one that said Aprilia is for people that think Ducati is too mainstream. I thought that was a fantastic
That's
line.
totally not true, though. That's like so the
I know.
opposite of
It
of that.
used to be true.
No, it
used to be true.
didn't. No, it didn't. I have a 2001 RSVR, and I rode it in the Aprilia Cup bike, the two-stroke, on the track for a long time. And the whole reason that I even got the Aprilia was because we were sick of dealing with Ducati and the nonsense. And Aprilia has a Rotax
Parts.
motor. Not
You
even
try to get
parts, just
dealing with
always
red
being
wiring.
broken. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Well, I mean, pick the system on any Ducati, and it's a yes that there's going to be some kind of problem. But the Aprilia had a Rotax motor. I still have mine. My husband had one too, but he sold his. So that was pretty much bulletproof in theory, and like they never broke. It was like the Italian Honda, unless it was something stupid like plastic tank warping
Still,
and leaking.
Obscure only refers to the name. Like I didn't know about Aprilia until I saw an Aprilia shiver.
Okay.
And we tuned that we tuned an Aprilia shiver for a power commander. Loused that up immediately. That was, why am I getting 1 mile to the gallon and going 3 miles per hour? You know, just, why is the bike on fire?
That bike used, and I don't know what it uses now because it's a bigger displacement, but that bike used the 650 Rotax that BMW has used like forever.
Oh, good. So he can look forward to an ovated drive shaft bearing any day now. That's yeah. All you gotta do is split the case. At least it's an Aprilia, so it'll be affordable and easy to fix.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I still have a Futura, which is somewhat obscure, but a really cool bike. And I rode a Pegaso around in Mexico for a couple of years. So Aprilia is a decent brand, but there's no dealer network anywhere near where I live. That's the biggest problem.
Yeah, there's not really here anymore either. There used to be when I first got mine's an 01, my street bike. And at that time, when they first were kind of trying to make inroads in the US, there was dealers pretty much all over the cities where I live. And now we're down to one. And I mean, I would take a bike there anyways, but you know, at this point it's like, I wouldn't buy another one, I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe the naked bike is cool. That's always kind of on my list.
But their new 660 parallel twin appears to be quite nice, and it's both fared in Tuono style. So that's kind of an interesting bike.
Why do I feel like my next bike is going to be like a Ninja 650? I'm just going to be done with it. Just be like, give me the most generic, reasonably sporty machine possible with some bags on it.
Why not? Then you could just ride it and not have to worry about it, and it's cheap to maintain. And
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
that's exactly where my head's at these days. Like, yeah.
The problem with the Ninja 650 is when you try to pass an Audi on a back road, and he decides to speed up.
It doesn't have much, does it? It really doesn't.
Now, when the friend I was borrowing it from failed to mention that it tops out at like 102.
Yeah. That's my thing. I just, whatever bike I get next, it's going to be it's going to be overproduced with parts galore. Whatever. That's the only line I'm, you know. But so far I've got no problem with the RS, man. Got no problems with it.
New Mexico.
Well, all right. Well, I got
So I am in
it's 6:30 CST now, right? I gotta go. I'm giving a presentation on my website to the MSTA. So if this thing goes late, I'll see you guys in a little bit.
Good luck.
Later.
So I want to address Laura put a question here about an introduction session. What do you need to know? Because that's what this originally was.
Well, since I'm fairly new to the group, I really, this is only my second happy hour, and I really don't know all the other rider coaches that are here. And it would be, I know Lara Holland, but it would be nice to maybe do like a little quick intro of who you are, where you live, what you ride. We do that. I belong to a women's motorcycling group, and we do that at our meetings when we have new people come to the meetings. So we get to know them and they get to know us. So, not to switch the subject from talking about, all your little motorcycling bits and bobs with engines and, Aprilas and Ducatis and all that, because I'm just an Indian Scout rider. But it would be nice to get to know you all a little bit better. So if you guys want to take a minute and do that, I would love to get to know you and who you are.
Feel free to introduce yourselves at this point, if you don't mind.
Sure. Murray Haynes from Santa Fe. Been a rider coach since 2005, site manager for the MSF as well as riding academy manager. My daily rider is a BMW F800 GS. I own 4 street bikes and 4 race bikes, including a vintage sidecar, which my wife monkeys on. She's also a rider coach. I see Rick Pasikoff is on here from Albuquerque, so he should speak up too. He's a good guy. He's been at it a while.
Oh, fine.
Thanks,
That's a lead in. I don't have my camera on because in this room, it's actually too dark. You can't see anyway. But I'm just popping in for the first time myself. Seen the ads for this for a while and haven't managed to. It's not a good time for me. But today it worked. So I thought I'd pop in and say hi to everybody. As Murray pointed out, I'm Rick from Albuquerque. I'm just a guy. I just ride an old V-Strom and ride it around the world as much as I can and play rider coaching as a hobby job because it's fun. I still work for a living. It's sad. I'm like one of the few of us that does.
Well, hi, everybody. My name is Sal Diaz. I'm in Little Rock, Arkansas. So I'm a rider coach. I've only maybe 3 years now. I'm also the RAM for Rock City Harley Davidson and love doing what I do. I ride mostly just for pleasure. I'm a street rider. I don't dirt ride or speed ride or anything like that. If anything, I do iron butts and long distance riding. So that's me, Sal Diaz. Thank you.
We have 2 rider coaches here, and one of them went through rider coach prep with Matt Berry. So I told her she had to come on and say, hi, Matt Berry.
You leave me out of this. Hi, Becca.
Oh, you don't want to admit to this one? Come on. You don't want to claim me?
She doesn't want to admit to me, most likely.
So I'm Rita Murphy-Liebeck, and my daughter Becca, who I'm staying with right now. We're both rider coaches in Wisconsin, and I'm a have range cards will travel. I like to go to other states and coach and see what I can pick up from other coaches, because if you stay in your little cocoon too much, you don't learn a whole lot. And that's kind of one of the themes we've had going tonight is how much can you learn? And I'm all about stealing ideas. And that's the cool thing about happy hour here is we get to steal ideas from people from other states without having to expense any travel.
I guess I can jump in since I've been called out. I'm Matt Berry from Wisconsin also. Been a rider coach for, I don't know, how long have you been rider coaches, Becca?
She walked away. We're helping her move into a new house. So she's trying to haul boxes and I made her stop for a minute.
Fun stuff. I think 4 years, 2016, I think.
2016.
I street ride, I dirt ride, I've done some supermoto racing, some hill climbing, some ice riding. I currently own like 8 or 10 or 11 different powered 2-wheeled vehicles. The daily's a Concours 1000, but a little bit of everything. love rider coaching, love interacting with the students. Yeah, that's me.
I'm Christopher. I'm from Illinois. I'm state coordinator for the Illinois program, and I'm also a rider coach in the Missouri program. I've been with the program approximately 11 years now, and I ride a V-Strom and a GSX S750.
I'm also here representing Illinois. My name is Nicole. I live in the Chicago area, and I'm lucky enough to have a full-time job dealing with motorcycles as assistant coordinator for Harper College, which runs motorcycle training in the northern third of Illinois, so the Chicago plus area. And I think I ride a Yamaha V-Star 1100. It's been a while since I've seen it. It's been in storage, but I just got it back from the shop, and that looks like what I remember it to be. So looking forward to getting back on it when the weather turns.
I'm Lisa. I'm from Tulsa, and I'm a Ram here and also a rider coach. I ride a Road Glide Ultra.
Mark, I live near Phoenix, Arizona. What do I ride? I have a 2008 Buell Ulysses, sort of a Swiss Army knife of motorcycles. And I'm a Rider Academy manager, so this is my job.
My name is Mel. I'm also from Illinois. I work with Nicole at Harper. I've been a rider coach. I think this is going on my 4th year now, and constantly just can't believe I get paid to do this. It's a lot of fun. If they didn't pay, I'd still do it, just not nearly as much. I have a little bit of a stable going on of motorcycles here behind me. Fixing up a couple of them. Usually I ride a Triumph. If I'm going far, I've got a Harley because it's got cruise control and a windshield. And if I'm just running up to the store, I've got a little Yamaha scooter that I hop on to do that. So, you know, anything with 2 wheels that I don't have to pedal, I really enjoy.
How about Mr. Alan Wood? You haven't been on for a while. You're muted, man. It's not coming through.
Sorry about that. It was on the headset. That better?
Yep.
All right. Got it off the headset and on the webcam. So I'm Alan, Tennessee, rider coach trainer, quality assurance trainer, work with curriculum development in the MSF world. So kind of jack of all trades to a lot of, I'm doing a rider coach prep in 2 weeks, doing the adventure course, the new adventure course, pilot course next week in Atlanta. So do a lot of the working with Dr. Ray and curriculum development and PDWs and things like that. So good to see everybody again. Haven't been on in months. Had some free time. Thought I'd jump on tonight for a bit. I want to ride an Africa Twin.
Yeah, looking forward to the ADV course. Dan Orchowski is showing up, I think, to take that training, and then I'm going to get in line as soon as he gets back.
Yep. I'm the trainer for it. I'll be teaching Dan. Are you guys going to be on that PDW Saturday?
Yes, we're signed up for the New York PDW. Yep.
There you go. Good.
Cool. Good to see you.
Good seeing you. You'll see me on that broadcast.
All right, I'll jump in next. My name's Ron Hines, and I gave Al Wood his start.
You admit to that?
Hey, look where he's taken us. So, from Rochester, New York, site administrator, rider coach. How many years now? 35, 36. something like that.
They had motorcycles back then?
Yeah, one had a big front wheel, and the other one had a small rear wheel with a wooden seat, Dennis.
Steam powered.
Yeah,
Steam
you
powered,
got
okay.
it.
Since we're introducing ourselves all to go again this time, I'm Dennis Mead in the St. Louis area. This will be my 19th year coaching the classes. I enjoyed immensely. I have fun doing it. I usually try to teach about 25 to 30 classes a season in various states, mostly Missouri and Illinois. Next.
I guess I'll go.
Up here. I'm from Central Mass, where we got 16 inches of snow the other day, and I've been a rider coach or / instructor since '95, a 3-wheel instructor for STEP from 2008, and my daily ride is a 2009 V-Strom, also a '95 Goldwing with a California 2 sidecar, and a 2012 FLHTK Harley.
I'm Paul Hendel from Rochester, New York. I am a retired high school principal, and I've been coaching for, I don't know, 13, 14, 15 years, something like that. I ride a variety of different sport bikes and sport touring bikes and enjoy my time here. So nice meeting all you folks.
Well, I'm Lynn Vandewater. I'm in central New York now, but from Long Island originally. And I'm a rider coach trainer and have a couple of training sites in the central New York area.
I'm James Carlisle. I've been a rider coach since 2015, but didn't get to coach much over the past several years. Back at it hard now. I'm a 5th grade school teacher, retired Army officer, and like to travel a lot. I'll ride whatever my wife will let me sneak in the house or buy. My everyday ride is a BMW RT, and I don't recommend riding them in the snow because then you got to clean all the salt spray off, and that's lots and lots of work, which I just finished paying for with my hard work. So.
Well, I should tell you guys a little bit about myself. My name is Lara Schaefer Munson. I started riding motorcycles when I learned to ride through the basic rider course in 2007. And I actually became a rider coach in 2009. And the only reason why I was even accepted into the rider coach prep was because between the time I had gotten my endorsement and the time I actually went through rider coach prep, I had taken a boatload of classes and put about 15,000 miles on my Yamaha V-Star 650. So when I bought that bike, it was my first motorcycle. It had 1,264 miles on it when I got it. And when I traded it in for my 2015 Indian Scout, it had 45,886 miles on it. So I ride a lot. I belong to a women's motorcycling group called Women on Wheels. I really enjoy teaching with the Minnesota Motorcycle Safety Center. If they didn't pay me, getting paid is like, the icing on the cake. If I didn't get paid, I'd still teach the classes anyway, because that's really how passionate I am about motorcycling and motorcycle safety. And I always tell my students there's a difference between a biker and a motorcyclist. And the motorcyclist is always taking classes, learning, improving their skills to become a better motorcyclist. Bikers, they just get on a bike and ride. So, but I'm glad to be part of the group. I'm really happy to meet all you guys. And tell you one thing, I even just being at the happy hour last week, I've really picked up some good tips and tricks. So I appreciate being part of the group.
I know there are still a few more people out there, but I'm not going to call you out by name. If you would like to introduce yourself, please do.
Hey, Don, Mark Pulaski from Pennsylvania. I know I don't met most of you over the last 4 weeks I've been on, I think. So it started riding when I was real young, 8 years old. Raced enduro races when I was, in my teens. Been riding, off and on. I moved from the dirt to the street, when I probably in my 20s. And I didn't actually take the BRC until my daughter was born, which was about, I don't know, 20 some years ago. And, so I learned a lot in that. And then I think about 7, 8 years ago, 2013, I became a rider coach. So I enjoy doing it. It's kind of like I feel like I give something back to the sport. I really enjoy, helping the young people and kind of, teaching people what I've learned, the mistakes that I've learned. And I really think, the program works. I think when I first took the program, I realized that, wow, there was so much. I was riding so many years and there was so much I didn't know about street riding. So, I want to, somebody has to teach the course, right? So, I'm here to lend a hand.
Okay, everybody be quiet. Jason's coming on to see how long it takes him to say something.
Don, are you doing introductions or so?
If you haven't introduced yourself and you would like to, please go ahead.
Should I wait for Jason?
Nah.
Okay. Well, my name's Rick Penzer. I've been coming to this tribe meeting for quite a while. I'm in northern New Jersey. My full-time occupation is machining and tool making for the past 44 years. Started as a MSF instructor in 2000, as a trainer in 2012, and a QA. Just finished my first year on the QA team here in New Jersey. And it's a great outlet. Being in a shop 10 hours a day, almost 6 days a week. It's great to get out on the weekend and meet people and offer what I can as far as passion and safety for motorcycling.
Now that I've finished dinner. I'm Mike Hahn. I'm in Rochester, New York. I've been riding for about 20 years. Started out with old crappy bikes, then moved to sport tours. Then I missed my super sport, but I moved to a KTM 1190 Adventure so that I had some suspension travel and I could do some overnight trips. Been riding for about 20 years, and I think this year will be my 5th summer as a rider coach, if Ron will have me back.
Don't do it.
Mike, I'll put in a good word for you with Ron. I don't know if that'll do any good, but we'll see.
It would if he hadn't met me already.
Wait, you said you moved to a KTM for overnight trips? Do they actually stay running that long?
It depends on the temperature. And I'm not joking about that.
I've had a KTM.
Don't go there with that one.
Hey, just because you know, we had to find a guy with, was it a 75 Dodge to jumpstart my bike. And, you know, he came up saying, well, it puts out what, 500 amps. And if this doesn't start your bike, nothing will. I'd already burned through two, you know, the little travel jump starter packs. Two different people had it on the trip and I burned through both of them trying to get the bike started. But the 75 Dodge got it started. And then there was that little issue with the airbox.
Everybody okay? Hello, feedback.
Everybody was taking a quick snooze, I think.
Let me see. Lawrence, have we heard from you?
I thought you weren't going to call anybody out, Don.
I'm going to call him out now. I've waited too long.
Lies.
Silence was deafening. Jason's got his hand up.
Sorry, stuff in my face, but I heard KTM and I got a text message today that KTM's offering $500 off for educational stuff on their new 200 Duke, which may or may not be a good thing, but I love the 390 Duke for a training bike.
I told Ron to buy some of those last summer.
Well, now you can buy the 200s.
I didn't even know there was a 200.
Neither does the rest of the world, and I don't think they will until we start putting it up for training stuff, but I beat up the KTM rep for the last 2 years, and they came up with $500, I guess. It's better than nothing, but I told them they needed $500 and 12 months worth of floor plan and a dealer loan program. So far, they got $500. I still need my dealer to do a dealer loan on it for me.
The Duke got a really nice write-up in last month's Road Racing World. They were very impressed with it.
We're talking about the 200 Duke, Mark, or which version?
Yes, the 200. Well, I say last month's. It might actually be this month's, you know, with the way magazines come out. Let's see. Yeah, I just received the February, so it would be the January 2021 issue. That a few pages on it. They like the bike.
The other bike that looks like it'll be interesting as a training bike is the newer version of the BMW 310.
So one of our private schools here in the Twin Cities got a whole fleet of those to use for training bikes, and I haven't heard how that's gone. I think he had them probably for all of last season. I'm super curious to talk to someone that has taught with those and how that's gone for them having those as training bikes. They look awesome.
It sounds expensive.
That's what I thought too. That's why I'm curious to know how it's gone. The same with the KTM. Does anybody know anyone that's using the KTM 390 as a training bike? No.
We work with the 310s in the adventure bike curriculum a fair amount. They're fun to play with. I suspect they'd be expensive to work on, but they're fun to play with. Very, very flickable bike.
So how many programs out there keep their bikes for a year or less and then swap them? Because that's one method of limiting your expense. The idea of selling a bike for just a few $100s off, and your investment's not several thousand, $3,000 to $5,000, your investment's several hundred.
A site I used to work with had a brand new fleet every year, but that site is it's Road America in Wisconsin. They have a corporate partnership with Yamaha, so their bikes are technically part of Yamaha. If somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but if I remember right, their bikes are technically part of Yamaha's demo fleet. So Yamaha just loans them the bikes for the year. They don't actually have to buy them. And then they return them and they get a new fleet the next year.
That is totally the negotiation that those guys had, and good for them. Because I wish everybody could do it. Flipping a bike in a year sounds like a great thing if you have a way to get rid of it. That is to potentially your students, which I assume that's what some places do. We have dealerships that are not, they're businesses. They're not for profits, and we don't have that opportunity to borrow a bike and turn one in the next year, or even in 2 years. So amortizing that bike out over about 4 years, maybe 5 years, really isn't that bad. But the way we figure it is, if the bike costs $4,000 to $5,000, which is about par for the course right now for a name brand training size motorcycle, that equates to about $43 a ride, give or take, for the customer. And that's before, the tires and stuff like that, of course.
So one of the three companies here that I work with does that, but they have a agreement not with a brand, but with a dealer, with several dealerships. And it seems like the bikes disappear every now and then, because they'll say, well, I've sold that bike, and so you've got to get that bike out of the trailer and back to the dealership, because that bike is gone and there'll be a replacement for it a few weeks later. It seems to be working. They've existed now this will be their third season. We'll see.
It's fantastic to have that kind of dealership support, and a dealership to obviously move that much iron to make that profitable for them. So it's certainly a two-way street, in that, we are an advertising arm of whatever dealership you want to partner yourself with, I suppose. And as long as that's mutually beneficial, hey, that's a great thing.
Yeah, I'm at a Harley Davidson dealer, and we're permitted to keep the bikes in action for up to 4 years, and we do that. We use them up to the very last day to be able to write off as much of the bike as we can. And so far, we've had good luck with selling them for what's left in them, investment-wise. So we end up turning over the fleet every 4 years and being able to expense everything else off.
So how is that going to change now that Harley's not going to produce that bike anymore?
They're continuing to produce the bike in limited numbers for training sites. So the change for us is that you might request a 2021, but actually get a 2020. They're not going to give you exactly what you request. You're just going to get them out of stock, as the stock depletes, they'll do another run of them.
I'd be disappointed to see Harley's training fleet go away, because I think Harley's really done a great job of turning the training into another department of their store. Parts, the clothing line, the sales floor, the used sales floor, and the maintenance side, and then you have training. I think they've done a great job with that.
Yeah, the big issue I see with it is now they've lost their first step bike.
Mike,
not that our sales staff,
it's still going to be a DOT compliant motorcycle that the dealership can potentially sell at the end of their contract term.
Yes, definitely. It's fully DOT compliant. They're actually producing them at the same plant here in wherever it is, Indiana or Pennsylvania or something. So it's the same production line. They're just not producing the 750s anymore. And actually, I think they had stopped selling the 500s at retail last year. I know for 2020, we did not get any 500s, and we only had 750s.
I started out with a fleet of 28 bikes when I opened my sites in 2001. All of those bikes are still in use, and I've about doubled the size of the fleet since then with add-ons. I buy them and I keep them.
Yeah, we could keep, it would be nice if we could keep the 500s. It would lower cost even more, but Harley Davidson rules are a maximum of 48 months.
Yeah, after a while, the bike no longer represents the business very well. I was down at a site this weekend, which is why I ended up riding in the snow, and bikes were just old. The tires were aged out. My first thought of it was that we're teaching safety and we've got a bike that doesn't meet the standards we're teaching. So,
Well, that depends on how you maintain them, though. I mean, all those maintenance items, with bearings and tires and wheels and all that stuff, I just keep on top of. When I change a tire, I check the bearings. I got a container full of parts, and things get swapped out as necessary. And it's not that they don't have a scratch here and there, but any serious damage gets repaired. I've replaced, I think, 2 gas tanks over the years because I decided that they were too far smashed. But for the most part, people don't fall down that hard. We have tip overs and that stuff's easily fixed.
I also think that takes a lot of stress out of it for the students, because every now and then I get asked, what happens if I drop a motorcycle? I say, look at them, it happens. They've got character marks and, student, what's the term we use? Student modifications.
Customization.
Actually, students are generally very surprised to learn how old the bikes are because they wouldn't know if you didn't tell them.
I think a couple of ours have a few decades on them from filling out incident reports.
Several years ago, I was teaching at a site in actually in Albuquerque, Kirtland Air Force Base, and their bikes have a decal on the gas tank that says, "Don't feel the need to drop this motorcycle. It's already been done for you."
That's what I'm going to do. Invest in a Sharpie, and each time a bike goes down, I'll label each of the little dings and scratches with a date and a time, and maybe have the students sign it or something. Have some fun with it, right, Ron?
Or get some cut vinyl helmet decals, the kill sign, the kill things on World War II aircraft, and every time the bike gets crashed, it gets a new helmet on the side of the tank.
I like that one. Like Snoopy and the Red Baron. You put the little stickers down the side of the tank.
Exactly. I think I might have to start doing this.
the students will look at that immediately and think, that's how many students have failed on this bike?
We don't call that one Christine for nothing.
Yeah, our bikes all have the Harley Davidson vehicle protection kit on them, which does an impressive job of keeping the bikes in really nice looking condition.
Is that a real thing, or is that just a lot of chrome?
No, it's a thing. They have pretty serious crash. I'm not a riding academy coach, but I've seen what the crash protection kit looks like. It's got some gnarly crash bars on it.
Yeah, we're using the original version protection kit for the 500. So it's got a set of forward engine bars, a set of side bars. I guess basically they'd be like in the position of a passenger grab rail. And there's a steel and a plastic protector around the muffler. And there's what else? There are handlebar end protectors. And I kind of doubted it a little bit, and then first class that I had someone, it was exercise 11 or 12, I don't remember which, but decided that the thing to do if they were really fast into one of the interns was completely forget what they learned in exercise 10 and just nail the front brake. And since the forward bar was only a fraction of an inch off the ground anyway, it just dropped onto the bar and they slid off to the end of the range, and the rider was still seated on the bike. I suddenly realized it was a really good idea.
Oh yeah, but I've seen them slide 40 or 50 feet with a rider on top of them, and you go over and you pick the bike up and cycle the ignition, and it fires right up and goes, and essentially no damage other than to the bars.
And in typical tip overs, the bike isn't flat on its side, so the turn signals aren't broken.
Right.
And since it's only over at basically a foot peg dragging angle, it's really easy to stand back up.
Turn signals aren't broken, side or the shift lever's not bent in, everything. The bike stays in perfect condition.
The rider's foot didn't get caught underneath.
Right. It's a spectacular setup. I agree.
Yeah, it's a good system, and that and the rev limiter, the two of those work really well to keep the bike safe and keep the students safe as well.
The KTM product, also, black and orange, of course, had the whole reason we bought them and bought 390s. No, I say we, it was me. I walked into the dealership and said, what can you do? The KTM demo fleet shows up with this crash protection kit on it that is fairly robust, that includes bark busters. And when we found out that was like a nationally available product, we bought 2 390s the first year with bark busters, and the bikes are not perfect any longer, but the only wear that those bikes really have on them are tires. Of course, because people are having fun. It tends to be the coaches having too much fun. And also for foot marks on the tail section, because short people want to ride these bikes and they drag a foot coming over the top. So I have rub marks there, but you can damn near kick the KTMs over, and they're pretty solid for what they do. The kicker with why that became a great bike immediately was the first class I remember bringing him out on happened to be a class Rita was teaching. And I watched a person on day 2, exercise 11, in a very good downpour, go flying into the corner to stop quickly, yank the front brake lever against all practice and anything a coach would have said. And I thought, oh shit, we're going to crash our first bike. And then I watched the ABS do its thing, the bike wiggle a little bit, and Rita coach somebody into, okay, and next time maybe we can, and do her thing. And it became, wow, bikes with ABS. It cost me less money in levers. It cost me less money here. We don't have a student get hurt. Fantastic. Let's have more of these. So now at the college, we have 4 of those things. And the only other fun that I've had with it that I can say is worthwhile on the KTM 390 is playing with the show and tell, exercise 8. And after getting done with the exercise, our newer bikes have the ability to put them in and take the ABS off. And stopping with the ABS and showing the students the difference of what ABS will accomplish, what it won't accomplish, is measurably different in how the bike reacts. And it's kind of a neat thing to see that that's an opportunity.
Hey, so 2 things there. You're saying that you turn the ABS off to show them that you can actually stop it better, right?
In some cases, yes.
Yeah.
But also showing them, if we have a limited traction situation, which sometimes we do, purposefully sliding the front end and going, hey, you know what, you're paying for the ABS. It's to save you from those emergencies that you didn't know were coming. We're all here looking at our situations, knowing what's going on, knowing the bike, knowing everything about it. It's not necessarily to make you stop better, shorter distance, but it will help you stop safer when there is that unknown.
And the other thing I think I heard you say was that that bike has cornering ABS.
No, we do not. It is offered on their bigger bikes, but no, not on the 390s and not at the vintage that we had. It was just that the student happened to be in a corner and had the ABS kick in.
Yeah.
which looked all kinds of horrible. But it is not the true cornering ABS and cornering traction control.
That's got cornering ABS. I haven't the cojones to test it. I mean, just flat out, I'm not willing to test it. So.
On my actual bike, I've looked down after having oopsie situations. You see the light flashing on the dashboard. So it does something.
So Jason, you said that the shorter riders like to ride those. What's your idea of a short rider?
If you have a KTM 390 and you are under, let's say, about 29 inches inseam, you're going to have to step up to it. There's no two ways about it. But for some of us that might be a shorter inseam, but let's say have enough lead in their pants, the suspension is forgiving enough that you can still put 2 feet on the ground. But getting on and off becomes a challenge.
The only reason why I ask is because I'm 4'10". So
touching the ground is really not part of riding a motorcycle. So what the hell? If you can get on and keep it going, have some fun.
right. It's interesting because when we went to the TU 250s here in Minnesota, they actually, because I'm the shortest rider coach they have, they had to lower some of the bikes, so they had me go out and test them to make sure that the shorter riders could sit on them. The only problem is, even though I'm 4'10", I have a 29-inch inseam. So my legs are like longer than my torso. So I don't know if that really helped or not, but
at 4'11", what kind of motorcycle are you most comfortable on? Because I do get that question a lot.
well, I started off on a Yamaha V-Star 650, and I rode the custom, and I could sit flat-footed on that bike. And right now I'm riding a 2015 Indian Scout, and I can sit flat-footed on that one as well.
All right, cool. Good to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
Whoops. Lost my place there. I'm not height challenged, but I got to say that sometimes getting on that DR200, it's a chore. You know, it's all good once I'm on there, but sometimes the getting on, it's just not a great day for me.
Has anybody showed you the lift your leg up and then do the hop to get it over instead of trying to swing it over? That's how I have to get on my GS.
I know all the ways, and you know, I haven't found a bike yet that I couldn't ride, but some days I'm more flexible than other days.
Sucks getting old, right, Lynn?
I wonder sometimes about manufacturers and their idea of what women riders need. They assume that all we need is bikes that are lower to the ground. I was at one of the international motorcycle shows quite a few years ago now, and one of the custom builders there had these motorcycles they were advertising as women's friendly motorcycles. And I thought, well, this is interesting. I wonder what's so women friendly about them. And I sat on one and could barely reach the clutch lever because that span was so long, and the reach to the bars was very challenging, but the seat was close to the ground. And I asked them, well, what, just to confirm what they thought a women's friendly motorcycle was, and they said, well, the seat's shorter. I said, okay, do you see how far I'm stretching to get to the bars? And do you see that my hand barely reaches the clutch lever? Did you consider maybe there's more than just a short seat? And that has nothing to do with being a woman. That has to do with having a short inseam.
I agree with you completely.
It's like the
How
current.
far you are down. It's also our reach, and we might have smaller hands, so it's being able to reach the clutch comfortably, where our hand is the strongest, and the turning radius. So when you're turning it in those slow, tight turns, being able to maneuver the clutch at the same time as you're really reaching as far as your arm will go. there's all those things to take into consideration. Has a lot to do with just your overall structure. I have the inseam, but I don't have the longer arms.
And you know, it flips the other way too, because I've had occasion to ride motorcycles that have been lowered for you know, shorter friends of mine, and that's equally as difficult as when you're too tall for the bike. That doesn't work so well either.
Well, and then stuff drags right away too, which is, I'm not a fan of. I don't know. I think being able to flat foot is overrated. I would much rather have the bar and the lever situation be what I need it to be than be. I haven't ever been able to touch my feet flat.
No,
so.
I've had conversations with students, you know, that just reach, and usually they're women, not always, but usually they're women. And we just have that heart to heart up front that says you just reach. So it's extra important that every stop, your head and eyes are up and the bars are squared. Otherwise, you might not be able to save it. And you know, if you kind of put that fear of God into them right up front, they usually step up and do an awesome job. Every stop, eyes here, you know, and if the first couple of times you can kind of give them a target, they usually put it together, you know. They just realize it's this or else, you know, and they make it work.
It's also a problem if you student has short feet and wears a higher heel. They have a really hard time getting their foot under the controls. And I know that my students, you know, the guys with the longer foot, they're like, well, what, they have trouble getting their toes in, like on the Street 500s, they have their trouble getting their toes in between the lever and the footrest. So none of the training bikes are usually perfectly proportioned to the students. So there's challenges on both ends with the taller.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
On most of the training bikes, an adjustment to raise or lower the gear shift height is a very simple adjustment. It takes less than a minute. And if you get people with gigantic feet or really tiny feet, you know, that can't flex, they physically can't lift their foot high enough because they don't bend that way, you know, you can lower the gear shift lever and make it a little bit easier for them.
If my boss would allow me, I'm looking at Sarah. So like for the places that I teach, they do not allow us to do those sort of adjustments. So we, you know, we teach the students.
You could always send an email to Brian, who's our head maintenance guy, you know, so we have full-time maintenance guys. So, you know,
he'd be visiting me every weekend. I mean, you know, there's a short-footed, short inseam, short arm, and a long foot, and a, you know, whatever, and a tall inseam at every single class. You know, you have 6 to 12 students. You're going to have one of everything every single time you teach a class. So,
you know, we take a couple of bikes that I'll have. I'm targeting the GZ250s in particular. If you raise the bars up, if someone needs the bars raised up because their legs are in the way, typically they'll need that gear shift lever and maybe the rear brake adjusted as well. So we've got a couple of bikes that are just set up that way. And as the class comes in, we size up who's there in the group and direct our taller riders to those bikes. So the amount of times we have to make adjustments is minimal.
One of the things I found over the past few years working with the Street 500, since everybody rides the same bike, and what we do, the primary thing we do to accommodate the riders is by changing the seat. Harley Davidson makes a lower seat and a taller seat. And I think the difference is a little bit over an inch either way. We found that putting the rider actually on the tallest seat that they're able to manage greatly improves their performance. You know, and we have the bikes that are preset tall and preset low, and they're labeled, so we know which ones to grab that have the levers or the handlebars rotated up or down. The only mistake we occasionally make is somebody puts a tall seat on a bike with the handlebars rotated down, and then one of our 6-foot+ coaches tries to accidentally gets on it to do U-turns and discovers that there's a physiological problem with the arrangement.
Yeah, all of a sudden they can't do it anymore.
We do the same
Been
thing
there,
with
done
our
that.
500s, because if you put them on the tallest seat that they can reach, then they don't have to pick their legs up quite so far. Now, if you put you're tempted to put a short person on a short seat, then they really have to lift their legs up their feet up a long ways to reach the pegs.
Becomes more of a cruiser style.
Yeah,
On the
so
street,
that helps.
On the street 500s, I'm a shorter person and I wear flat heels when I'm riding, teaching. I like the taller seat just because of the fact that I can reach the handlebars better, and it's a straight handlebar, so they're not, pulled back bars. So fit is really, really important. And you can't just assume that because a person is shorter that short seat is going to be what's best for them.
And so, Mark, we've named our motorcycles. I gave each coach the opportunity to name a motorcycle as long as it was at least maybe PG or less. And our tall bike is named Yeti because we all discussed that Bigfoot might be just a little too much. And our short motorcycle is named Minnow, the SS Minnow. So we've named them, and they have nameplates on them. So that helps us keep them straight to which one's which.
Yeah, ours, the tall one, and lows are just designated on the front nameplate. We just have a T or an L on the bikes that are set with the handlebars rotated up or down. That way, the only field adjustments that we need to do are occasionally rotating the levers. So we, dirt bike style, we have the lever perches just loose enough that with a hand on the mirror and a hand on the lever, you can force it so you can rotate the brake lever up to level or downwards for people with larger hands.
Yes, I've appreciated your notes on that. We do that often as well. Have you seen where Riding Academy has come out with the heat shields for heavier set people to guard them from the engine?
Yeah, and that's a turnaround because I asked about it a few years ago and they said, no, you can't do that. It's a modification.
I remember that.
Let's see, it was Stephen Smith who was out for one of our field visits and he asked about it and I said, oh yeah, we're having a lot of trouble with it. And he said, here, and he gave me a business card that was a direct line to customer service at Harley Davidson. He said, anybody who ends up with burned thigh, give them this number and have them call and file a complaint. And so we've been doing that for about 1.5 years, and now magically we can put heat shields on bikes.
Amazing. It's amazing. Good job, Mark.
I'm sure it wasn't just us. We just have the problem start earlier in the year and last later in the year.
We had students actually showing up with ironing board pads strapped to the inside of their thighs. They Velcroed them. It actually worked. So
yeah, I had a rider do that. She it was like she came in for the second day. It was like, what exactly are you wearing? It was that she had this giant silver garter that she had made out of an ironing board cover, and it worked brilliantly.
It did. It was wonderful. It was very smart.
If my students come in underprepared, yours come in overprepared. How does that happen?
Well, she only came in over prepared on the second day. On the first day, she ended up with first-degree burns.
One of the coaches I used to work with bought some variety of Harley. I can't think which one, and she found that I'm guessing here. I think it was her right leg caught a lot of heat off of one of the parts, and she actually contacted DuPont and bought a quantity of fabric that they make firefighters gear out of, and she made herself a leg guard to wear when she rode her bike.
And oven mitts with the leftovers then.
Yeah, that would be from the engine's oil tank on older Softail models was directly under the front of the seat, right about where your right thigh would be, especially if you put your feet down, carrying 200-degree oil.
I have to say I do have that issue with my Indian Scout. Because I have the shorter legs and my legs sit in a little bit closer to the exhaust, I actually have had a couple instances where I've had holes burned through my riding pants. So
Those aren't holes, they're added ventilation.
Fashion statements. So a question for Mark Weiss in Arizona. Where are you based and where you teach? I ask because I'm from Arizona.
Oh, I'm at Desert Wind Harley Davidson in Mesa.
Cool. I'm originally from Scottsdale, so the valley's a great spot. That used to be Chosa's, correct?
Right. That was its original. It was originally, well, we're in what was the second Chosa's location. The first Chosa's location was a few miles away.
Yep.
We're in the one, it's on Country Club now.
Yep. I sent some coaches there a couple of years ago for academy training. So yeah, it's a great spot.
So I did the academy training at, I think it was called Chester's. Is that the same? And it was in maybe Chandler.
Nope, the same place between Chosa's and Desert Wind was Chester's.
And is it still there?
Yep, we're still there.
Oh, okay. Oh, so that you're at the one that used to be called Chester's.
Right. It used to, it was originally Chosa's, then it became Chester's. Chester's built the range on site. If you were there when the range was on site.
Yes, yes.
That developed when it was Chester's and the big building in back. And then now it's Desert Wind. And I think it's about the 5th or 6th year is Desert Wind.
Okay. It's a beautiful, beautiful classroom. It's a beautiful dealership. And the people there were great. I was there with Larry. Where's Larry? Larry, I saw you on here a few minutes ago. I don't know where he went. Maybe he left.
Mark, my sister has a place in Chandler, so Sun Lakes area. And next time I'm down visiting her, I'll have to pop in and pay a visit.
Yeah, definitely. Sun Lakes are maybe a half an hour away.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
It's funny you said Chandler, and I'm in Chandler, and I don't think of Sun Lakes as Chandler because there used to be desert in between where I live and where Sun Lakes is. That's no longer there. It's housing all the way down, but I think of Sun Lakes as being a separate place.
When I lived in Arizona, there was no Sun Lakes. There was no such thing.
When I say Sun Lakes, I get a funny look from people. But if I say Chandler, they all go, "Oh yeah, okay."
And Chandler was a little podunk town on the highway, so it's been quite a few years since I lived there.
Yeah, when I moved in, we're near Chandler Boulevard. Chandler Boulevard and Ray Road and stuff down there, they were all 2 lanes, 55 miles per hour with stop signs. It's no longer that way.
Yeah, now the city is completely wrapped around South Mountain, so all the way around. And Ahwatukee was just being started. It was like this outlier way far out there. It was like a little island all by itself.
Yeah, it was the Caterpillar equipment. It was their proving ground out there.
Well, that's out in White Tanks. So the Caterpillar proving ground.
No, they had an area in what's Ahwatukee now.
Oh, okay. Well, they moved up in the world.
Yeah, my family had a house off Chaparral and Pima where Scottsdale Community College is, and the 101 didn't exist. We watched the city build bridges, but they weren't able to do the connecting highway because they didn't have a lease from the tribe.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a lot of the open desert is just simply gone. The valley is huge. That's why I live in Santa Fe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there was only I-10 and I-17. And I-10 was, it only went to that whole stretch through Tonopah was only in the planning stages when I last lived there. So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my brother
Still good
still lives
writing.
in Scottsdale, so I
Yeah.
get over there occasionally. I'll stop and see you, Mark.
Okay, I look forward to it. Come visit before it hits 120.
Yeah, indeed. Well, our plan is this year when COVID lightens up, we're gonna put a couple of bikes in the toy hauler and come to Arizona in the winter time and get away from the winter here. So we'll have plenty of opportunity when it's nice.
Well, our winter
You
weather's
need
been a
to get
little
away.
odd.
Now, Murray, you're saying you need to get away from the Santa Fe winter?
Yeah, we're at 7,500 feet in the Rockies.
Oh, okay, all right.
We have a couple of weeks when it's in the teens and we got snow and all kinds of stuff, but it's not too bad.
Just
That's
out of
bad, right,
curiosity, I was thinking the same thing. What's the weather like there right now, Murray?
Today actually it was 55 degrees, but tomorrow it'll be 40 and we have a storm coming in later in the day. So it swings around a lot.
We're expecting 6 inches tomorrow with a high of 30. And then for the next week, I think the high is 10.
Oh yeah, no, I lived in the Midwest when I was in college and I used to have to snowshoe to work. So I kind of know the deal. I like it here.
Yeah, we're looking at negative Fahrenheit this week and more snow. So, yeah, I was thinking, like to get away from the Midwest, we would move to Santa Fe, and not leave Santa Fe for the winter because they're so harsh there.
Yeah, I went to school in Chicago in the 60s and the school was close to the lake and I can remember walking in between crossing a street that had a straight shot from the lake and having my hair pushed over to the side and frozen because I left with it wet. So yeah, Phoenix is nice in the wintertime. I have kids in Tucson, so we want to go down there in the wintertime.
Like my dad who retired from Boston to Texas, and now he complains when it drops below 60 in the winter.
Well,
So
hey,
you used to be tough. What the hell happened?
yeah, we got old.
Yeah, he's old.
Oh yes, it's not for the faint of heart, believe me.
It's interesting how you adapt to the weather, though. When I was much younger, I worked on a tall ship in Mystic, and at the start of the season, it was maybe March, and it was cold, and I was always the one with like five layers on, trying to stay warm. But by the end of the season in October, it was like 40 degrees, and we'd be out sailing, and I'd be in shorts and a t-shirt. So you adapt.
Yeah.
Well, what was it? 2 years ago?
Young Lynn adapts. Anyway, I don't know about.
2 years ago when we started teaching in Sarah and Mel will probably remember this. Was it the first week of April? Well, anyway, there were 2 weekends, not back to back, where we had 3 or 4 inches on the range. And one weekend classes had to be canceled. Another weekend we were on day 2 and I forget which exercise. But the students are coming towards me from the other side of the range and I can't see them because it's a blizzard that just came up in like a minute or two.
Yep.
And the other coach was at the other end and I'm waving and like, what is the range signal for? I can't see because we couldn't even see each other. So we pulled over and the students wanted to take a picture. And by the time we got them in a little line to take a picture, there was literally 2 or almost 3 inches of snow on their motorcycles. So we had to walk the bikes back in. It's crazy weather. It's Chicago.
Yeah, that was Easter weekend of 2019. We were doing we were actually doing student teaching. It was the Sunday at the Rockford College. Rockford and Highland, the only ones that finished. Everyone else canceled. And we were finishing the student teaching, doing the skill eval, and it's starting to accumulate. We're like, crap. And we're like, rush, hurry.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, everyone passed and nobody crashed, and it was wonderful. And then we all got inside and it got super deep, and it was just nutty.
I had a class once, it was in the summertime, and it had been raining out, and we were doing a version of the swerve exercise. It was a long, long time ago. And the student's riding towards me, and this little micro cell of like dumped down crazy rain is tracking him up the range. It's coming up behind him, and he can hear it coming, and he kind of crunches down, and it passes over him. And as he passes over him, I can't see him at all. He's just gone. And then it passes over me, and it was sunshine on the other side. And he didn't even bother swerving. He just kind of came to a stop next to me, and we were both laughing so hard. We had to just take a minute to regroup. It was intense.
Okay, so who remembers rear tire skid? Yeah, got some old folks here. I loved that exercise. You could see it was one of those light bulb moments for the students, but evidently somebody thought it was too dangerous.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't that it was too dangerous. It was the students were leaving with the wrong impression because you asked them what they learned, and they told you they learned how to skid to a stop in an emergency.
That too, yes, that too.
They put a new surface on one of our ranges back in those days. It was some kind of tarry stuff. And shortly after that, we did an ERC, and I was riding my boss's RT, and I came in to do the rear wheel skid. And as I'm skidding, the skidding tire is melting the tarry surface. It was like ice skating. I didn't slow down at all. The back end sliding around. I went way past the range. I probably went 60 feet past the brake chute and finally came to a stop, fortunately, right before I got to the curb. And it's like, yeah, I don't know if we're going to be doing that one at that speed. It was not a good surface for skidding on.
There's Larry. Larry, hi Larry. Mark Weiss from Arizona. He's at the place where we did our academy training. He used to be called Testers.
I thought he looked familiar, but I couldn't place him.
Was he there when we were there?
Pardon me?
Mark, how long have you been at the old Chesters?
Well, I wasn't there I was there when in the early part of Chester's. I was gone for a few years and came back as Desert Wind. So
yeah, I don't think
I started there in 2007, but was gone for, I guess, 10, 11, and 12, and then came back.
Oh, okay. We were there in 15?
14 or 15, yeah.
14, maybe 14.
Might have been there.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I don't remember him, but I remember the place. It was wonderful.
Did you all notice in chat that Don's asking how you're doing on your 3-minute theses? Thesi? What's the plural of thesis? Anyway, how are you doing on those? Crickets? Ideas? Anyone?
Yeah, I have a couple of ideas, but I haven't put pen to paper.
Yes, me too. They're cooking. I got to get PDWs done first. Anybody else?
Making progress.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I missed the question.
Okay, well, there you go, Dr. Green. Let's hear, tell us what the 3-minute thesis thing is, please.
Well, 3-minute thesis. Okay.
I think you're doing a great job. Keep it up, Lara.
Cindy, do you know what a 3-minute thesis is?
I've never heard of it.
Okay, I'm not going to explain it. Someone that's smarter than me should explain it. How about anybody? Whose idea was this anyway?
Don't throw yourself under the bus like that. Holy moly.
Whoever had the grand idea should be the one that explains it. 'Cause I
Yeah,
have no
yeah,
idea.
Rita. Yeah, Rita.
Oh,
It's a Rita.
Rita. Rita, I used to teach with you.
I will blame it on Don. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't taught with you, Rita, for at least 10 years when we were at Great Lakes. I'm sure
That's
that was
right.
10 years
You
ago.
oh, maybe that's a bad thing that I'm memorable. Ooh.
Well,
But
at the
yes,
time, you and I were one of the only very few handful of women instructors in Northeastern Illinois. So at the
Yeah.
time, it was you and I and Sherry Rampala. That was
Mhm.
it. Yeah.
And we're all still in it too.
We are all still in it because we rock.
Awesome. So Lara wants me to give my version of what I think a 3-minute thesis
Okay.
is. The best I can relate it to is I've been to conferences where speakers have 3 minutes during, say, an opening session to summarize their entire hour and a half breakout session that they're going to have into 3 minutes. And in that 3 minutes, they need to give enough salient information to let people know what it is that they're all about, but also to entice them to want to learn more, enough more that they want to come to their breakout session. So to me, that's what a 3-minute thesis is all about, is in 3 minutes, do a video that lasts no more than 3 minutes that summarizes a point enough that people want to watch that 3 minutes, but you can't give them everything in 3 minutes. So enticing them to want to learn more. And Don, as he's always trying to create opportunities for us to share information, is working on creating a library of 3-minute theses that Rider coaches are willing to put together. And he has a couple on his website already that are very fancy, but he also has at least one that I'm aware of on his website that is a clip of people talking on the happy hour that have given very salient information on here that he pieced together. So they can be as fancy as you want or as simple as you want, but the gist of it is, in 3 minutes, put together something salient and share it with Don so he can share it with the world on his website.
Yeah, I was in a competition for those things back in 2018. It was interesting.
What was that competition at, Alan?
Harvard. It was basically, there was a big group of people that got together, did a bunch of competition, and a bunch of professors were evaluating you, and you got prizes. So,
Did you do one?
I did.
Okay, so now you're busted, dude. Let's at least hear what the topic was.
Don would probably know. It was on.
Currently, it's an annual event at a couple of hundred universities,
Yeah.
PhD students. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I was on teaching methodology versus learning methodology. So 3 minutes. I think I was 5 seconds under.
And then do they give you feedback? Do these professors give you feedback, or do they just go, thank you very much?
Well, right then and there, it's a thank you very much, but later on, you get a big 1.5-page document of how to improve.
Nah, forget it. Okay, I can tell you how I'm doing my 3-minute thesis. Zero.
Yeah, we're not going to do that here, Cindy. We're just going to be like, hey, that was awesome. Put it in there, lady.
So we're only judged by how many people we can lure into a breakout room.
No, there's no judging. No, we're going to do the whole peer review process. We're going to have you deliver yours, and then we're going to say, peers, what'd you think? and then somebody's going to chime in and be like, yes, Cindy, that was fantastic. I think you could improve by doing this, that, and the other thing. Thank you very much.
I think Matt Gentile is doing one Saturday on simulator practices and simulator practice demos during the New York PDW.
Spoiler alert, Alan. Geez.
That's all right. It's a lure. It's an enticement.
It's an enticement, right? Somebody needs to ask him a question about what happens when you stop quickly and your front tire locks.
Okay.
You do 3 pages of paperwork.
But it happened to him during his rider coach trainer prep, and it didn't end well.
I was there for that. I can attest to the
happens.
fact that it did
There
not
you
end
go,
well.
yeah. So was I.
Stuff happens. You know, I hadn't taken that particular slant on the 3-minute thesis as an enticement thing. I was just thinking it on as a short bite, you know, something that you could convey in 3 minutes. That would be a nice takeaway tip. Is it specifically meant to entice people to further study, or is a short sound bite within the parameters?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Don't people like those of us that are frequently attending here kind of see everything as an enticement to further study?
If you're in that mindset, yes.
I agree, Lara. And speaking of further study, this is the second or third time that this video PDW in New York has been mentioned. And there are some of us who just have to have PDWs in order to actually breathe. So I'm curious, is this PDW something that some of us who are addicted could pirate in on, or is it strictly limited to those who teach in New York?
If you can get here by Saturday, I've got a guest bedroom. You can look over my shoulder.
Wait, I thought it was virtual. It's in person? Are you
I
guys
don't know
live?
if I give you my
It's
code, then can I
virtual.
sign in?
It's virtual, and I'd say the question should be addressed to our program manager, Ben Zadrozny.
You
And
chicken, come on, forward it to
send
her.
him an email, B Zadrozny, ZADROZ.
Yeah, exactly.
At nysmsp.org, New York State.
Can you
Board
put that in the
of
chat?
Program.org. I can.
That
will-
being said, I believe
good
he
answer.
invited,
I will do that.
he invited New Mexico, so.
To
We actually got an email and New Mexico is participating with New York. So
Yep.
seems to
Yeah, I
me-
know he invited New Mexico to it.
Say again?
Yeah, I know he invited New Mexico to it, but I think it's just those 2 states, and I know we've already got over 200 people. So
Yeah.
it's pretty full.
Well, we have two dates going on, so I think if there's space, perhaps he would accommodate you. So I'll put his email here.
Just tell him Lynn sent you.
I can tell you that accommodating Rita is a slippery slope.
All right. Little spelling test there, but I think I got it.
So New York folks I ran across Vanessa Waldron recently. How is she connected in structure to Ben Zadrozny?
I don't know that name.
Yeah, neither do I.
She said she works with Ben. I was in a virtual training with her through the Federal Highways system, and I didn't get a chance to private message with her very much while the training
Maybe.
was going on.
I think maybe possibly she's connected with the DMV. The DMV is working on a few things in New York related to permitting. Getting permits online is a thing that's being pushed through channels now, so maybe she's part of that initiative. Don hasn't said it, so I'll say it. We've got this forum going on now at RiderChoices. I got a chance to go on there this week and poke around, so it's starting to populate with a few topics. And you might want to step in there and take a peek. Maybe there's something there that will strike your interest, or maybe you have a question that other people can give you answers to.
Is there a sub forum with pictures of kickstands that I have to worry about?
Not to my knowledge.
You don't have the right password for that area.
There's an inside joke here that I'm missing and I want to know it.
You don't need to know, Matt.
Maybe you don't.
want any of that. Laura's hoarding it. Let her have it. That's all it is.
It got Facebook really mad at Don, though.
Within seconds.
I don't know what the problem is with the forum. I get in there very easily.
The forum is a new thing, so I've been very pleased so far with the people that get out there and have put information up and shared and discussed even differing opinions, and so it's an opportunity to have a place where we can go, and if we want to look up something in the future, we'll be able to go back and just do a simple search, since we lost that ability within the MSF RETSWORM. So
if you've been pleased so far, I should probably stay away.
well, no, everything gets moderated so that we can keep the kickstands out. That's a good thing. And you know, it's kind of run by the people that are in it. So the more you participate, the better off we all are. Don't be bashful.
It's wonderful that all these tools are out there, and I'm not saying yours is bad, Don. But I often think about going back to one of our first discussions this evening with Mark Weiss's bungee cord and how much you can stretch to cover how many things. We all try to figure out what is the most important in our world that are at that particular moment and stretch our bungee cords around it. And unfortunately, whether it was MSF's forum or your forum or even happy hour or our tribe talk stuff, our bungee cords can only stretch so much. And it's always an interesting topic when you discuss professional development, how each person has a different opinion of where everyone's bungee cord should stretch, whether it be, well, everyone should be posting on the forum or everyone should be going to 1,200 hours of PDWs every year because that's the only way you're going to be a good rider coach. And it's fortunate that we have so many tools available so we all can try to grow and improve and stretch our bungee cords.
Say training is great and wonderful, but at some point you have to get out and actually practice the stuff to get good at it.
Well, and certain things are going to be of more value to some people than to other people. You know, like the MSF forum is not something that I frequented all the time, but occasionally I would want some information, and it was a very good resource to go and find that information. So, you know, kind of use things selectively to fit my personal needs. And I guess everybody's are different.
Is that forum going to come back up? Does anybody know on MSF? Last I heard, they were thinking about it or redoing it.
Well, it's more of a technical problem than anything else. Their Brettsorg server went down hard. They replaced it with a new one, new operating system. The old stuff didn't quite work as it was supposed to in the new one. So they're trying to bring it back to life, and the stuff was so old it doesn't work with the newer systems. So I don't know if you'll see it back up or not, but they got some issues.
So the rumors of Russian hackers wasn't true?
Yeah, they were trying to get some intellectual property. Yeah.
Maybe that was just my con spreading that rumor.
There you
go. Or kickstands.
I think it would be nice, even, and I certainly understand if it doesn't come back in a participatory form, but I think at least having it come back in a way that makes the content that was there searchable, because I hear that repeatedly, what Rita just said, and Don and I have talked about this, and it's certainly something that I miss, having the ability to go there and search for something that had been discussed at whatever previous time. I think that is super valuable, and I wish that that could come back just in archive form.
The other thing to consider, and I think we've talked about it here before, is, you know, how many people were using the forum. Much like we talk about who shows up where and does what, you know, there's so many things that are available to people out there. Quite frankly, although a lot of people looked at the forum, not very many participated. And you know, over the last couple of years, I've kept track of rider coach trainer participation in particular. And the interesting thing was even rider coach trainer participation on the forum has decreased, so that if you have, you know, let's say, I don't know, I haven't checked recently, 200 or 215 rider coach trainers amongst the 5,000 plus rider coaches, and only 12 of them participate. You know, is it worth the extra effort for people to continue to moderate that and participate and make sure that bad information isn't put out, or that people are abusing other people in such forms? And so I'm not totally sure that, you know, when you look at the staff that's available at MSF, if that's, you know, where they want to put their time and money. I know that many of us have voiced our opinion as to the value of it. But until that decision is made, or, you know, we have another place. And I get the fact that I keep throwing stuff out there, a lot of stuff. And my website keeps building. And, you know, I sometimes wonder if it's worth the effort. And then, you know, we have nights like this where we just talk and have a good time and people share information. And I want us all to have the advantage of having a place where we can go and we feel safe and we can talk in this way. I don't always feel that way on Facebook. You know, it's kind of odd. And then when I want to go back and look at something that I read, it becomes very difficult unless I've written notes and made a conscious effort to go and seek. And that's why the forum, I think, is a good way for us to be able to do that. Exactly, Mike. It's like Cheers.
Speaking of stretching the bungee cord, I'm off to my next virtual meeting. So nice seeing all of you again. Until the next time. Nice
Start thinking about your 3MT, Cindy.
I don't know what it's, 3-minute thesis. Okay. I talked more than 3 minutes, so never mind. I did mine. Y'all say great job, Cindy.
You can do it. So, got a couple more minutes. You guys want to see the next 3-minute thesis? Okay, a couple thumbs. A couple people are just like, I don't know, sure, man. Let me preface this, that this is a combined effort. I reached out to a lot of people, got a lot of feedback, had a lot of technical help from people. So I don't want you to get the impression that this is what is expected when we say, hey, you know, can you do a 3-minute thesis? It can be as simple as you talking into a phone and videotaping it and shares. But this one took a little bit of effort. A lot of people came together to make it happen. So with that, I'll show you the latest 3-minute thesis, I hope. So as always, what's your feedback? Wow, lots of icons tonight. I like that.
That was good, Doug. I like that.
Ideas for improvement.
I liked that it was totally nonverbal because it forced me to pay attention to the details.
Thank you, Lara.
Like the beat, not sure if I can dance to it.
Well, then your score, what, 5, 6?
On what kind of scale?
Well, he said he liked the beat, but he's not sure he could dance to it. So I think you'd have to only give it the music a 6, maybe then.
Out of what, 5? What?
Yeah, obviously.
Okay.
It was good. I liked the style. It was not what I expected, having just been refreshed on the term 3-minute thesis today. A nonverbal, essentially slideshow kind of animated presentation was not what I expected out of a 3-minute thesis. And that's a good thing.
Do you think that novice coaches or new coaches would gain something from watching that?
Yes.
I think they would gain something. I think that it may be a lot of information to take in such a short period of time. But I think there is absolutely something to be gained, possibly by watching more than once.
I think it would be a reminder for them of what they covered in their prep. And you know how you do your prep and then you go into reality. And sometimes what was in the prep, you know, kind of goes a little by the wayside. I think it might kind of draw them back into the prep content.
Like, don't you think that sometimes one of the challenges with incorporating new material into our schema is kind of distilling it down to the important points? And so I think yes, just because it really is that, a distillation of a lot of material. But I think, like, as a new coach, that's really one of the biggest challenges with learning to be a new coach anyway. Just be, you know, there's so much material and it's like, where does all this fit together? And I think that's what, in my opinion, makes that one particularly powerful. But I think the idea of 3-minute theses, I still don't know the plural for that word, the idea of those as a tool that new coaches can benefit from, I think is very smart.
You know, if somebody had access to this, they'd be able to stop it if they wanted to. You know, if it was too much too quickly. And I think that is an advantage of the video learning, is you can go faster, go slower, go back, relook at it when it's on your timeline, your schedule, so to speak. It's not a one-time thing. And so I know there's a lot of information in there. Took a lot of minds to kind of jostle it around just right and get it so we all felt happy with it. So my whole premise of the 3-minute thesis is, you know, how do we share information when we aren't on a video conference like this? Or, you know, sometimes, you know, read the writer coach guide is an awful thing to say. It can be overwhelming, as Belinda talked about 2 weeks ago. You know, sometimes it's just too much. But in 3 minutes, getting your point across about sections of the writer coach guide may be nice, bite-sized bite-sized bits of information that people can take and digest in their own manner. I keep thinking, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And if you can like take those bites and use what you get from them at your discretion, I think it works out really well.
It all revolves around food eventually for me. So it's like an appetizer or a dessert to the Rider Coach Guide. How about that?
Could be, yeah.
Well, and I think, you know, putting that in a video format, for some people, I mean, when I went, and we've all been there, we've all went through Rider Coach Prep. I mean, and the hardest part about it is a lot of information thrown at you in a very short period of time, and then you get done with that, and then they expect you to go out and teach a basic rider course. But to be able to access a video like that to refresh your memory, it seems like for me, when I started teaching, it really kind of took me about 3 years to get into a groove. And then once I got there, I'm like, oh, okay, well, I kind of know what I'm doing, so I don't have to worry about anything else, you know, and furthering my education and knowledge and refreshing myself on stuff I've already learned, and maybe kind of put back in that memory bank and never really pulled out for a long period of time. To have something like this to go back and look at and go, oh yeah, okay, is quite refreshing actually.
Laura, I have a question for you. During your tenure, how many courses have you observed and how many times have you been QA'd?
Let's see, observed.
Observed. You've actually taken the time to go sit on the bench and watch a course.
You know, I've done a lot of observations, not necessarily the whole entire course, but because I'm usually one of those people that shows up to the range pretty early, especially if I'm teaching an afternoon class, then I'll go and watch the morning class and see what's going on there. I've learned a lot from the other rider coaches by doing that. Have I ever been had a professional observation myself in the 12 years that I've been teaching? I can honestly say no.
That's because Minnesota hasn't had a QA program in place. I'll add that to what Laura just said. It's not Laura's fault.
The small bites thing has some merit. My dad was in World War II when he was a teenager, and then he was in the reserves after that, and he ended up as a chief warrant officer. And at a memorial service that their unit had after he had passed, some general came up to us and said, you know, when I was a younger man, your father and I inherited this unit that was like a total cluster, and they were just a train wreck. And we had our first meeting about how we were going to put this thing back together again. And he already had it all sorted out. And he had taken the manual and he had divided up into sections. And he says, listen, we all have to know this whole thing, but this is a whole lot to know all at once. So here, and he ripped off a few pages. This is for you. And he ripped off a page. This is for you. And you get to do this. And everybody had a couple of pages that they were responsible for. And he says, you think you can manage those few pages? That's going to be our starting point. And after that, we'll learn each other's pages. But for now, you got to deal with these couple of pages. Let's get those under your belt and we'll sort things out. And apparently it worked.
It's chunking, right?
So I'm glad you said that, Lynn, because this is a list of all the 3 EMTs I could think of that would really help a new rider coach. And I'll develop this list if everybody wants to kind of grab one and do something with it. And then we could build this library. And as a team, we could start helping rider coaches. What do you think?
You know, it's interesting if you look out there and you observe enough coaches and you see the errors that they make when they're observing, and what do they observe and what do they miss, and how do they coach what they observe, or overcoach what they observe and coach everything that they observe, and how do they prioritize what their coaches, what they're coaching, you know, and everybody's different because of personalities. and what they see is different than what other people see. So it becomes very challenging, especially in QA and in some of the more advanced cert courses, where you look at these guys and girls and you say, okay, how do I correct this? How do I bring them to that next level? How do I teach them? Yeah, you saw all these 10 things, but let's focus on this, and then let's correct the one, and then work on the next ones after that. And, you know, that's, to me, is a bigger challenge to try and teach and learn.
So what you're saying now is that you're gonna do one on QA.
Oh, no.
QA priorities.
Well, and what people see, how much people see, is driven by what they're personally able to absorb. And, you know, as coaches, as more of our OACR faculties become executive functions, we see more without actively looking. It just kind of goes in by osmosis. So there has to be that period up front where that information is going in purposefully because the coach is looking for targeted information. And over time, by that purposeful application, that stuff becomes automatic and they don't have to focus on it that hard.
You know, when I bring on a new coach here in Tulsa, I hook them up with a mentor coach for at least a year. But they see that coach as like maybe the mentor coach has memorized what they're actually doing. And they see us as not making mistakes. So then what I do is go out and coach with them, and then I make mistakes. I run the demo backwards. It's by accident. I don't do it on purpose. Or things that, I mean, you just make mistakes. I mean, even an experienced coach, if you don't make mistakes, you're not learning, because adults learn from mistakes. So once they see the human side, that's what they can learn from. Once those defense mechanisms go down, and sometimes you're right, Laura, that takes time. It takes a little while for a new coach to realize that we are not perfect. If we will admit we're not perfect, where sometimes some people don't like to do that. We've been doing this for 30 years, by God, and we know it all, which is really not true. That's what I appreciate by the ones that I consider my mentors, who are the ones that say, I'm still learning. I had a coach meeting last night, and I told my coaches, I learn from them. I learn from the students that come through. The things that they're learning now, I relearn in a different way and see from a different view. It's fun. That's what makes it fun. That's what makes it challenging. And that's why I keep doing it. Otherwise, I get bored fast.
Well, that's why I said earlier in the chat, it's, you know, if it gets to the point where I feel like I know everything, then it's time for me to retire.
And sometimes that's where I think we were worried about the forums and stuff. Some people got on there that maybe I felt like they might not have felt like it, or they might not have meant to, but they presented themselves as knowing everything. So I was way too inhibited to get on that MSF forum. And I'm a trainer, but I don't introduce myself as a trainer. I'm just a rider coach, and just a rider coach can be a real problem sometimes. But hey, I'm a rider. I like to ride motorcycles. I like to learn how to get better. And the title of rider coach and the title of rider coach trainer is just one of those things that somehow I just managed to work in. When I'm in a big room and I hear Mark Weiss introduce himself, it is the shortest introduction of anyone in the room. I'm Mark Weiss, I'm from Arizona. And I'm like, oh my God, his resume is like 4 feet long, seriously. But those are the kind of people that make sense to me. And the forums, I loved them because I could look up things and learn from them in a background way. But sometimes they got on there and it was just like, oh my gosh, people, seriously, get real. You are not that great. Come down to earth and figure out, we are all out there walking around chasing orange cones that have been knocked out of the way from somebody who wrecked on one of them. Or we're trying to get a bike started, or the dang clutches don't work. We're all doing the same thing. So I'm talking too much. Goodbye.
I think you hit the nail on the head, though. We are all rider coaches, and we are all peers. And if we're going to learn from each other, that's the way it needs to be. And I really appreciate that insight. And that's why, Mark Weiss is a god.
Oh my goodness, he would hate that. He's going to disappear again on us.
Oh no. Please
Yeah, I
don't.
know. He's going to disappear. Don't do that.
Every single prep I have done, one of the rider coach candidates says something that is so deep and profound and I never even thought of, and I'm like, wow. Every single one. So you don't need 30 years of experience to come out with something that is earth-shattering.
That's very true. That's very true.
So
I learned the value of who I was from Wayne Steele. I'm not sure how many years ago it was, but at one of the conferences, Ray had paired me up on a presentation with Wayne. And Wayne introduced himself first, and he said, "Hi, I'm Wayne Steele. I'm from Kentucky," and then turned to me. And I had this much larger prepared statement that I was used to as being the standard way to do things. And there I was trying to figure out what to say, and basically said, I'm Mark Weiss. I'm a rider coach from Arizona," and learned that that was all that was necessary. So thank you, Wayne.
I remember him. Is he still around?
No, Wayne passed away several years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I remember him. Yes.
Yeah, he was a tremendous resource and one of the easiest people I've ever met to listen to.
Yes, I agree.
So
I have to just share a funny Wayne Steele story. We had the smart trainer I think it was kind of a new thing at the time when he had when we were at some event in Kentucky, and we had a little space in between our training and a dinner we were going to have. So some of us just stayed on site and we're killing some time in between, and we were playing on the smart trainer, and Wayne's on the smart trainer and he's riding along, and on the video screen, every time a motorcyclist would ride by on the video screen, he would wave. So I thought that was really cute that he would wave to the riders on the smart trainer as he was going down the road.
Well, I know when I finished my rider coach prep course, it was so, for me, it was so emotionally and mentally draining that once I completed the course and I became a rider coach, I had taken my training in Winona, which is about an hour and a half from where I live in Savage. And I literally cried the whole way home. I was riding my motorcycle and I went from Winona, made it from Winona to Lake City, and I was so emotionally overwhelmed by everything and all the stuff that I had been through in the last several weeks that I had to get off my bike and sit and for like a half an hour, and I cried my eyes out. But it was one of the best things I've ever done, one of the most challenging things I've ever done, and I still find it a challenge, but it's a fun challenge.
Is that good stress thing?
Does anybody in the Midwest, do you remember a chief instructor, Bud Southard from Iowa?
Bud went through his second chief instructor prep with me. He had been a chief, but he felt like he was rusty, and he asked if he could go through the chief instructor prep again, which back in those days, was a month long. It was not as it is now. And he went through it a second time. We had a blast together.
I had him as he was chief instructor at that time. We were doing RSS. I found out later that he was involved with the Murphy video that we used to use. But anyhow, the key takeaway that I got from Bud very early was limit your self-disclosure. And I've carried that for a long, long time, and it works pretty well. I'm there for the students. I'm just a rider. I'm a coach, and I'm here to help you. And it certainly isn't about me.
So we're about 20 minutes over tonight. Lisa, you inspired me. I was just editing a video. I'm not finished with it yet, from the Tribe Talk Happy Hour on the 20th, and we talk about failure, or actually I talk about sucking, and it relates to failure. So I'm going to cut that up and send it to you in particular, because
I'm so proud that I inspired you about sucking. That's awesome.
Well, you just remind me how much I suck sometimes, that I like to share it with others.
Worse.
And so I'm gonna get that to you. And then I can't talk enough about this book. If you're into understanding people, it's called Behave by Robert Sapolsky. It will take you a year to read this, and then you'll probably have to go back to it and read it again. And I'm just starting to highlight it from the beginning again, because it's taken me so long to get to it. But it gets back to what we talked a few weeks ago about us and them. I think it may have been the 20th as well. And so Lisa, I'm writing this down so I don't forget, sorry. Lisa brought that up too, where it's not about the title we wear. It's about how we are as people, the connection that we have in between us and what we do and what inspires us to do a good job at this, that keeps us plugging ahead and being those constant lifelong learners, trying to be better and pass it on to somebody else. I know Jason gets tired of hearing me say this, but it's people like you that makes me want to have everybody be an us and no longer be a them. Because that differentiation of us and them, they do it this way, or that they're not like us, is what causes the conflict in the first place. And if we can't get over that conflict and start hearing each other when we speak and trying to understand perspectives, and I'm bad about this, you can see on the forum, it takes me a while to come around sometimes. It's a lot of work, but what we get out of it is so great. And I know that I want to get more out of it with people like y'all. So I'm giving myself therapy if I'm talking too much. I apologize, Mike. Have a nice week. I'll see you next week. I love you all. Don't take it the wrong way, but I love you all. And great tune, Lara. Great tune. Have a good night. Take care of yourselves. Get to the forum. It's great.
Be safe. Bye, everybody.